Today we probably got our biggest update yet on the future of CD Projekt Red. This includes news on the future of Cyberpunk, the future of the Witcher franchise, and the future of CD Projekt Red's management, as there's been one big move that has come at the actual top of the company, and that involves Marcin Owinski. So a lot is happening, and let's get into it. As always, stay up to date by subscribing and turning notifications on so you don't miss out on any of these gaming news videos. But nevertheless, CD Projekt Red has outlined some of the future of the company in the last couple of months and over the course of the last year. We know that a new Witcher installment was coming. It was the beginning of a trilogy or a new saga. That's what they said in their own words. Earlier this year, they confirmed that development on the project had begun, and they also shared a little teaser image from it in which we see a new school introduced to the franchise, something that has never been before seen. I don't believe it's in the books or the games or anything, and that seems to be like the School of the Lynx, which some people believe that this may be a new school, maybe run by Siri in the future after the events of The Witcher 3. It really is difficult to say. That's purely speculation at this point. Could be going in the past. We have no idea what this new saga will be about. But what we do know is that this is the next game coming from CD Projekt Red, and once Phantom Liberty is out of the way, it seems like much of the company will be focused on that for the next couple of years. That is The Witcher 4, which won't be called that, but that is what we're going to be referring to the game until it actually gets an official name. But back to Cyberpunk. Obviously, Phantom Liberty, that is the sole expansion that we know about that is going to be coming in 2023, probably in the middle half of the year. And then, obviously, just about a month or two ago, we got an indication that patch 1.7 or update 1.7, whatever you want to call it, is going to include some major overhauls to the game. That includes another overhaul to police, which right around the launch of Cyberpunk 2077, we saw CDPR kinda address it. It really didn't work, but we're going to see something much bigger coming around next year. And then vehicle-to-vehicle combat's going to be another thing that's going to be introduced, as well as some overhauls to Melee. There's going to be new cyberware. There's a lot to look forward to with Cyberpunk 2077, and it's coming right at a great time as the game is rising on Steam, as everybody really enjoyed Edge Runners and are looking forward to getting back into this universe. And that is why a lot of people have been demanding for a second expansion, as was originally planned before all of the Cyberpunk 2077 chaos happened at launch. And very interestingly enough, another YouTuber just the other day, Tyler McVicker, check out his video if you've missed it, I'll have a link in the description, but he discussed some of the things that he's heard from CD Projekt Red sources. He cited this as speculation, as he doesn't know if any of this is going to come true, so again, take this with a grain of salt, but he said that Phantom Liberty was originally around 10 to 15 hours in content. That has since changed. He says it's now closer to around 25 to 40 hours in total, and there's going to be a bunch of side quest gigs and all the stuff that you expect from this expansion, this big sequel that they've been hyping up for the last number of months, in which we just got the teaser trailer about a month or two ago. And then he also said about a second expansion. Crystal Palace was originally tossed around as the second story DLC, and for those unfamiliar, that is the moon base, and within one of the endings of Cyberpunk 2077, V is actually approaching the Crystal Palace for some sort of big heist, and we never see him actually go inside it, but it's teased. And they also tossed around the idea of maybe just doing a world filler expansion in which they were just going to add a ton of new gigs, side content, and stuff to flesh out the open world. And he also mentioned that the next major update, which is all of that stuff, the police overhaul, vehicle-to-vehicle combat, cyberware, melee, and all of that, is being dubbed Cyberpunk 2.0. So they really are envisioning that patch 1.7 is going to be a game changer for this game. McVicker furthermore mentioned that multiplayer was something that was pretty far into development, but obviously things changed. Just like the second expansion, CDPR pivoted their strategy, and that is no longer something that is happening as of this moment. But he did say that there is some hope inside of CD Projekt Red that maybe a second expansion does come about, and all of that really is in regards to the success that Cyberpunk 2077 feels. Obviously, the last couple of weeks this game has been rising on Steam charts, and I think it had like over 1 million players across all of its platforms, but that is something that's going to have to remain, and that is something that's going to have to contribute to possibly Phantom Liberty. That success needs to continue if this game is going to continue. But regardless of all of that, that is what we've known about the future of CD Projekt Red. Today we got a massive, when I say massive, I mean massive update on the future of the company, the future of Cyberpunk, the future of Witcher, and also a new franchise that was just announced that is in development. In CD Projekt Red's latest investor call, we have the long-term product outlook. For The Witcher, we have a project codenamed Sirius coming from the Molasses Flood. They were recently acquired by CDPR. They're based out of Boston. They have a new Witcher trilogy. This is the one I talked about earlier on the video. The Witcher 4 is the game we await, and that is the one that is currently in development. The next game likely coming from CD Projekt Red. And they also have Canis Majoris, which is going to be coming from a third-party external studio. Apparently, some of the former Witcher developers will be working on that. We don't know what studio this is. Let the speculation begin. I've seen some people indicate maybe this is just Rebel Wolves, which is the studio that is headed up by Konrad Tomaskiewicz. He left, formed his own studio. They were working on a dark fantasy RPG. It was said to be a new IP, but could that be The Witcher? Probably not, but it'll take some time until we know what that third-party game is going to be and where it is going to be set. And then Cyberpunk 2077, Projekt ORION was announced. This is something that is right now just in the planning phase. It's probably 5 to 10 years out, but that was announced, so there is a Cyberpunk 2077 sequel on the way. And while it is being referred to as a sequel, we don't know if we're going to be playing as V. I've touched on this in prior videos, but there is technically numerous endings of the game, a way that V can technically survive, so they could continue it, or they could just continue the franchise forward. Maybe Cyberpunk 2084, we follow a new character, but the world stays the same, and we see maybe the way that we impacted the ending impact the beginning of that next journey. It's difficult to say what this sequel will entail, but I do imagine it's going to take place a couple of years after the events of 2077. And they also announced a new IP simply called Codename Hater. No idea what that is, but right now that is something that is, again, in the very early planning phase. Now, on social media, CD Projekt Red did provide further, details about each of these codenames, starting with ORION, the Cyberpunk 2077 sequel. It's going to be the next Cyberpunk game, which will take this franchise further and continue harnessing the potential of this dark future universe. Doesn't really say much more than that. You can look into what ORION means. It's really too early to say what this is going to be. But it is important to note that CD Projekt Red, as they announced earlier this year, they do have 2 separate teams now on these projects. So what does that exactly mean? Well, that means that one team is going to be focused on the future of The Witcher, and one team is going to be focused on the future of Cyberpunk. So this does mean that this project may not come out in like 15 years, as some have thought about it, but it may just come out in maybe 5 or so years. Obviously, right now, CDPR is still focused on Phantom Liberty, but after that, I imagine work will start to begin on this Cyberpunk sequel, and it will take some time as most of the company will have their concentration on The Witcher. Polaris, it is a codename for the next installment in the Witcher series of games, which we recently announced was in pre-production. Pretty much The Witcher 4. It is the beginning of a new saga. We aim to release 2 more Witcher games after Polaris, creating a new AAA RPG trilogy. And then Canis Majoris is a full-fledged Witcher game separate to the new Witcher saga, starting with Polaris. It will be developed by an external studio headed by experienced developers who have worked on past Witcher games. So what is this mysterious studio? That is something that we'll be talking about for quite some time until it probably gets leaked. And then Sirius is a codename for the game developed by the Molasses Flood, set in the Witcher universe and created with support from CDPR. It will differ from our past productions, offering multiplayer gameplay on top of a single-player experience, including a campaign with quests and a story. And then Hater is a codename for a third entirely distinct IP created from scratch within CDPR. The project is in the earliest stages of the creative process, which means we are not developing any game yet, but working exclusively on the foundation for this new setting. Now, furthermore, we actually did get even more details. Benji Sales lists this here. He says Phantom Liberty right now is in final production, and it has a staff of over 350 developers. Project Polaris, this is the new Witcher saga. It will be the first Witcher game set in the new trilogy. Right now there's 150 staff on it, and all 3 games released within 6 years after Polaris's launch. So imagine that The Witcher 4 launches in, let's say, 2025. That just means that the next game will probably launch in 2028, and then the last of this trilogy will launch in 2031. So a 6-year span of time. And then Project Hater, again, is in pre-production, and it started in late 2021. Now, that is not the only big changes coming to CD Projekt Red's future, as they finally committed to multiplayer. They said to investors that most of our new games are going to be featuring it, and it will be used to enrich the single-player experience, which I do feel like is an odd statement. There's a lot of concerns that this is going to mess with their recipes with RPGs or single-player adventures. That's probably what I should say, but I am very skeptical about this. I doubt that all of these games are just going to have co-op, because that's the only way I can think about it enriching single-player content or single-player experiences, but it also very much sounds, based on some of the leaks with Cyberpunk 2077's original multiplayer plans, that they're going to have some Grand Theft Auto Online-esque multiplayer experiences, probably coming from both The Witcher and Cyberpunk in the future. So that's just what I expect from this. Obviously, co-op will probably be something that's there as well, but again, that's something that we'll be talking about for quite some time, but it definitely does sound like CDPR wants to get on that live service train eventually. And then this was probably a very big shocker, but CD Projekt Red's Marcin Owinski, who co-founded the company all those years ago, will be stepping down as co-CEO. In a statement, he said, "I am beginning a brand new personal chapter at CD Projekt, as I will submit my candidacy for the role of chairman of the supervisory board, leaving behind my joint CEO role." I guess the only CEO now will be Adam Kaczynski. By the end of 2022, I'll hand over my duties to my colleagues from the board. And then he goes on talking about his years with the company and how he's happy about the 1,200 developers. And he says, "It is thanks to that commitment and amazing talent that right now I have that same feeling I had all those years ago, hunger and optimism for what's ahead." So yeah, some big changes coming from CD Projekt Red. I have another video coming later this week in which I talk about some of these departures at the company, some very concerning ones, not necessarily in regards to management, but the actual production staff, something that has been a very big problem within the company for the last couple of years. It's been overlooked by a lot of people, but they have lost a lot of senior developers. That was a big thing that was noticeable after The Witcher 3. It's become even more noticeable after Cyberpunk 2077. I'm very much optimistic as well about the future of this company, and hopefully that they learn their lessons from Cyberpunk 2077, but there are former developers that don't feel like enough has changed, so we'll see what happens. But remember, they are going to be making a big jump to Unreal Engine 5. That is an entirely new engine, and that will be a big change for the company, as again, Cyberpunk 2077's last expansion, Phantom Liberty, is the last project for Red Engine. So indeed, a big technological jump coming for the company in the not-so-near future. Ultimately, it is nice to see some transparency with the future direction of CD Projekt Red, but again, with there being such a long span of time between likely The Witcher 4 and The Witcher 6, a lot can change during that span of time. Hell, ownership of CD Projekt Red can change during that span of time. So a lot of this is like, take it with a grain of salt. Who knows what is going to change in the future, especially in regards to CD Projekt Red and the development staff of that company. They will likely continue to grow, so maybe the output does become faster, but this is very similar to what we saw with Bethesda Game Studios a number of years ago, in which they revealed that they were working on Fallout 76, Starfield, and The Elder Scrolls 6. And I feel like in about 5 or 6 years, there's going to be a lot of people agitated that we haven't seen certain games release from them yet. But I do imagine that the next Cyberpunk game is probably around, I would say, maybe 4 to 5 years away. I think that's safe to say. It probably could be a little bit longer, but it is important to know that this is a separate team. Adam Kaczynski elaborated in his investor call today, saying that the sequel will be developed by a brand new team in Boston, Massachusetts. He said, "Our plans are certainly ambitious and call for a great deal of work, dedication, and further growth. This is why we're setting up a new team in Boston, which, together with the expanding Vancouver team, will form our new studio, and that will be the development team behind Cyberpunk 2077 sequel, something that is still coming together, that team, and is right now still in the planning phase. So likely a number of years away, but it is awesome to see that they are committed to a new game, because I definitely want to see more from this universe sooner rather than later. And furthermore, as of recording this video, Pavel Sasko, one of the lead developers on Cyberpunk 2077, announced that he was moving to Boston together with the core team responsible for Cyberpunk 2077 to establish a new studio and be the foundation of the North American team of CD Projekt Red. So it does seem like the Cyberpunk 2077 developers, the main ones at least, are going to be continuing that journey with ORION. I've been saying it wrong throughout this video. It's ORION, not ORION. Anyway, that is what we know about the future of CD Projekt Red. A lot of promising updates, some that I'm still a little concerned about. We'll talk about that in future videos, but let me know your thoughts down in the comment section below on all of this. But thank you for watching. Make sure to leave a like if you did enjoy this video or if you found any informative value, and make sure to follow my other social media accounts for updates on new videos. Links are always down in the description below. I'm most active on Twitter, giving opinions on news that I do not always get into video form, so do make sure to follow me over there. Also check out my Discord for all sorts of discussion on games. And again, thank you for joining. Consider subscribing for more videos like this, and I'll see you later.